Hello everyone, I am here today with Alisée de Tonnac, a friend we met when she was visiting Santiago a few months ago. Alisée graduated from Business School of Lausanne and also got a master's in International Management at Bocconi University with highest honors. She was product manager at L'Oreal in Milan, and now she's the co-founder and CEO of Seedstars World, a global startup competition. Alisée, thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. So before we get into your present, I thought there was something really interesting about your past that I wanted to ask you about. You know, you were product manager of L'Oreal, which is a very big company, very early in your career. So you were off to quite a start. And my curiosity is because I'll tell you later, but I think we share some of this switching from the corporate world to the more entrepreneurial world. Why that change and where that passion came from for you? How did that happen?
So project manager is a big word, because that's the status they give in L'Oréal, but I was more junior. I was not like I was managing the brand of Lancôme or Armani. So
Right.
don't worry about
Right.
that. Why? Because I didn't see my fit, and I think that's what many of our generation are realizing more and more. I didn't see my fit in a big corporate where you tend to not be able to see the results of your work. You tend to maybe not be heard, and I didn't understand myself in this very big kind of bureaucratic company where efficiency was not the merit. And and I wanted to do something more impactful. That's why I went in entrepreneurship, where it's something where you can really be the machine to build something tomorrow.
So interesting. To me, it was very similar. I mean, I went through a very early corporate sort of nice job, and then I said, "Oh, no way, it's not for me." But you just said efficiency is not the guiding principle. Why do you think that is so? What do you think that it's so close to us entrepreneurs? The need for efficiency.
Because we don't have time is our most valuable asset, and it's the only thing we do not control and we can't get more of.
Right.
So you have to be extremely efficient in everything you do, so you take the most out of it. And also because we usually at the beginning we're bootstrapping, we're in a financial situation that's quite delicate where you can't allow yourself to not be efficient. So we make a lot of errors in doing so, but efficiency for me is always something that keeps coming up to mind when I'm doing the Seedstars World every day.
Right.
And I think the biggest whoa when I realized, okay, I really have to get out, is when I was starting to talk to my colleagues, and the discussion was when do we hit retirement? And that was something for me where I was like, I'm not in the right place, because I can't be thinking about when I will receive a certain amount of money in 40, 50 years time.
Right. No, you can't.
So
The pleasure has to be, I think, in the journey and not in the some sort of
exactly.
goal, right? So no, I totally agree. But I really think it's one of those interesting things, because for some people that maybe don't get a chance in the sort of a relatively prestigious company or role early in their careers, they think, oh, if I can just get there. But then there's people that get there pretty early and say, no way, this is not for me, and they leave. So yeah.
Again, I didn't cut myself from the corporate world, if I may say so. It's not an enemy, or it's not something I
No,
will
of
never.
course not.
I think I will, if ever I find myself joining again a big company for XY reason, I will have the entrepreneurial spirit,
Right.
which changes everything.
Right.
It's the mindset that makes you, even when I will enter a company, I will never work the way I did in L'Oréal. And I think I did not bring value to them. I was more of a cost, especially because I only stayed 2 years. So the whole mentality of an entrepreneur, which is already an experience and a journey to get. And then there's a lot of discussions, are you born or not an entrepreneur? And that's something else. But it's really a mindset that I think I would go in a company very differently.
Right. No, I agree. I think, people that can carry that need to sort of take things in their own hands and innovate and try to, make things better. Not because someone tells them, but because they want to. It's, it's invaluable either for a startup or for a big corporation for sure. And now you're with Sistars World,
Yes.
and which is super awesome. So maybe tell us about what you're doing.
So Seed Stars World was a company that I co-founded with Pierre Alain, who actually co-founded Seed Stars, which is a venture builder based in Switzerland. And he really wanted to know what entrepreneurs were doing in the rest of the world, and it wasn't possible that we weren't connecting in one way or another. And more importantly, finding ways of synergies and understanding the opportunities in emerging markets. So we decided last year we went on a 10-month world tour where we organized 20 pitching events. So Seed Stars World is a worldwide startup competition focused on emerging markets and fast-growing startup seeds. And our focus was to organize pitching events, select with our partners, incubators, accelerators, co-working spaces in each community, select the best 20 entrepreneurs, have them pitch, one winner per city, 20 winners at the end of the year. And all these winners, we brought them to Switzerland in February 2014 to raise capital for them. We ourselves promised a prize of up to $500,000 in equity investment, and then with many other prizes that followed on. And it was a great success. There was a beautiful vibe and energy during that week of being 20 entrepreneurs from around the world for a week together in the cold. So there's this whole kind of atmosphere created. And we're doing it again, bigger and stronger. So we're going to 36. Right? Yep. And I think we're going to line up even 40 this year.
Wow.
And the objective is to really represent any tech city in the world.
Wow. No, it sounds fascinating. It sounds fun. And I mean, we met when you were in Santiago, and just the stories that you had of the trip and all that was incredible. Last year, I think South Korean startup one.
Yes. Flito. Which is a crowdsourcing translation platform, very smart because, as you know, Google, when everyone uses Google Translator, it does not translate. So the beauty is that the community of Flito will translate. So if I say, how do you say happy birthday in Italian, someone will translate it to receive points, and they will receive points. And that someone, because it's a human and they understand the slang and the way we speak, it's a perfect translation of what I have asked.
Right. It comes with actual cultural knowledge of what they're saying instead of just a literal, that sounds, well, that's really interesting. Yeah. And so this is the part that I'm really fascinated with. In that sort of trip, you go to all these different cultures, you go to see entrepreneurs, but from all these different places. What were some of the biggest surprises of the trip? What is that, you look back and say, wow, I didn't expect that, or this was so shocking to me, both in good ways and bad ways?
Professionally and personally, I had all my stereotypes and expectations wrong. All of them. So I was completely ignorant and naive because stereotypes really don't work. They're really stereotypes more for the definition. And I think we were extremely surprised by the very, very early ecosystems because you see the very beginning and how it can go to the next level. So, for example, Rwanda or Azerbaijan is really at the beginning. Azerbaijan last year only had one incubator in the whole country. Now I believe there are two, and there's even a co-working space. In Rwanda, it was the same thing, but you saw what I saw in Azerbaijan was the will of the young generation to become entrepreneur, and they're quite good developers because there's a strong ICT community. At least Azerbaijan, the government is trying to work on becoming kind of an ICT hub. And with Rwanda, it was the government. I mean, now in Rwanda, you can open your own company online in less than an hour. Oh. Where else? I mean, if I could do that in Switzerland, I'd be very happy.
Yes.
And most importantly, you incorporate your company at cost zero. So it was to see the dynamic of the government and how they wanted to implicate themselves to build this kind of startup ecosystem. Which I think is important at the beginning. In the learning curve of a startup ecosystem, I think the government has to be here, and they also have to be smart enough to know when to pull out. But it was nice to see that. I was impressed by I knew this a bit, but in Russia, the quality of the startups are incredible.
Really?
In Korea and Japan also, the startup ecosystem is very early. That's why we went to these countries, even though they're not
Right.
emerging markets. But because the culture was really to have in Korea Samsung on your business card and nothing else, there are very few entrepreneurs. The cultural clash is still very huge,
Mm.
but you do start seeing from the young generation startups. And when you put very high education, which you can find in Korea and Japan, with the entrepreneurial spirit, the results are
Right.
very impressive.
So pretty, your world sort of turned upside down. Everything you expected, totally different. What would you say were like what is the most surprising region? Like you got there, it's like, oh wow, this is totally this country. I would have never thought that this country is doing these kind of things in terms of progress, I guess.
In terms of progress, I wasn't expecting Latin America in general.
Uh huh.
Because I think of the most of the countries that the other countries that we visited, and there's a lot of hype on Africa, so we knew quite a lot. But in Latin America, one, we had no idea the government was that involved. That you
Right.
may see Chile,
Yeah.
Brazil, I even heard in Colombia, etc. So we had no idea it was at such a national level.
Right.
Same, we were at the time in Buenos Aires when they had invited professors from Singularity
Oh
University,
right. Yeah.
mobilized the whole city on entrepreneurship for today. So that is something I had never seen elsewhere in Europe, etc. So it was really impressive. Um,
So would you say that in Latin America, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I do. I want to make sure that I'm getting your point. Is it Latin America a place where the it's the efforts are more unified, I guess, or more concentrated between government and the private and
it's
the
where it's example of where the government was extremely present. When you see what Corfu is doing in Chile, in Singapore also, it was really impressive with the government involvement. But in Latin America, to see in general in all the countries we visited, so it's less the case in Mexico, but may it be Argentina, Brazil, and Chile, we really saw a strong government involvement. And it seems, then I don't know all the elements, but it seems successful.
right.
Depending on what was their result, but Startup Chile, in terms of marketing, a lot of people know Startup Chile and don't even know Chile and
Yeah.
Santiago City. So they were able to really communicate that they could become the hub to a company and welcome startups from around the world. Then I know their retention rate is not the best, but maybe that was not the
Right.
number one priority.
Right.
But it's really impressive. Startup Brazil, the program that they're doing on a national level to work with selected accelerators and be able to give up to 100,000 US dollars in grant to a startup that participates in one of these acceleration programs is very impressive, especially in this kind of ICT tech sector, which we don't necessarily see in other cities. In Europe, if I may talk about Switzerland, ICT startups are not very well understood and represented. They do have programs to help more medtech life science companies, and it's also kind of their sector because we are kind of the hub of all the big pharmaceutical companies, etc. But it was very refreshing to see this in emerging markets where we would think they're behind, which is not the case.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was having a conversation with Ben Casnoca, like this, an interview like this one, who's the co-author of Reid Hoffman of the book The Startup of You, and he was saying that he lived in Chile for a while. He lived in Santiago, and he's been around many entrepreneurial ecosystems around the world. And he was saying that the point, that we were talking about how some people, where is the right place to be? Where should one be if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a professional, and whatever. And what he was saying is it's not so much about the right. I mean, we all know about Japan, or we all know about Silicon Valley, or we all know about Berlin or Israel or whatever. But the point is, how can you promote your city or your country in a specific way, in a way that makes you in a remarkable way, in a way that makes you different and unique. And I think for example, Chile, you can promote it in terms of like, well, you're in the middle of a, you have a very stable market and very clear rules, and I mean, whatever the angle for promoting Chile is. Would you say that each place could be an entrepreneurial hub as long as they play to their strengths, because every place has its strengths? Or would you say that some places are just gonna be always, runner-ups to Silicon Valley?
No, the world is too big for only Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley, I think many cities have understood they're not aspiring to become Silicon Valley, and I think it's an error to aspire to be that. Silicon Valley is there, and it's very tough together. They have such a reunion of so many different stakeholders that make it magical to do a startup. There. However, all through our trip in all continents, there's a race to become the innovation hub, and every country wants that. Why? Because it's one of the most sustainable routes for a government, and it's such a solution to so many big socio-economical problems in each city, may it be unemployment, etc. So definitely.
But isn't the innovation hub sort of too broad of a goal? Like innovation in general?
What you see is that in Dubai, they're putting a lot of efforts in being excellent in the area of how do you say this, surgery. Everything related to hospitals, scientific research on surgeries, etc. Right. You see that in Switzerland, it's more medtech, life science. Singapore has a very strong biotech hub there. So yes, specialize yourself. I think it's a good reason.
Good.
Create an entrepreneurial spirit in general, to have a startup ecosystem in general, to have incubators at the level of a university without maybe in a specific industry. I think that is also important, because again, it's a mindset you create that is supposed to overall make your citizen healthier and better in their day-to-day. So
right. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's it's as if either you're a professional or a startup or an ecosystem, you need to play to your strengths and differentiate yourself from what everybody else is doing. Looking back, when you look at the contest, you look at all the people you met, all the startups both that won the contest and went to Switzerland and the ones that didn't. What is it that you say across the cultures and everything is like the common theme among the good entrepreneurs? What is that thing that they all had?
Okay, what's incredible already is that really, when going from Moscow to Azerbaijan to Mexico City, the person you face culturally, we are so different. But everything, physically, culturally, religiously, everything makes it awkward. But when you get down to the subject of why you're an entrepreneur, why you're doing this, how you execute, it's like we speak the same language. Really? This is really unbelievable, and words does not give justice to what I'm trying to explain, but it's really crazy how an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. Who cares where he's from, his background? The traits of an entrepreneur is more difficult, because I don't know how to put a name on everything, and they are different in how they execute, but it's really they execute, they just do it. Right. There's something in the mentality of they test, they try, and I'm very fond of kind of the lean startup methodology and this way of acting, and you do feel it, and you sense the experience. You see straight away the ones that are serial entrepreneurs and the ones that are doing their first venture, and you can't take away that experience. I don't.
It transcends every. It's just a more raw material that they have.
No, they're shit. I mean, there's no bullshit. I don't know how to say it. These are the facts and figures. This is how they do it. This is how they get there. This is what they're testing. Right. More or less marketers, more or less with a financial background, more or less with these kind of aspects. But overall, they love what they do, huh?
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And last night I was just having this hangout with young sort of star entrepreneurs, and we were talking about this, and it's funny because when you hear like whatever, there's a lot of people that read a lot about what being an entrepreneur is, and then people that do it, and the people that read, they give you all these weird models and descriptions and whatever. And then I was talking to this 15-year-old kid that is running a startup from Boulder doing software, and I asked him, so where are you an entrepreneur? And he just said, I just like doing cool shit. And to me it said so much more than, I mean, it's, I guess what you're saying, it's such a internal feeling or spirit.
I'm the kind of one who loves to see that quote that makes sense, or that to-do list that seems
Right.
perfect to how to succeed. But in the end, it's everyone's own story, and
Right.
you never know the whole story.
Right.
Because even when a successful entrepreneur is going to tell about his story, there are things you can learn about how he did his growth hacking strategy, and maybe you can reuse it or things like that. But in general, how he successed, there's so many factors of right time, right place, so many opportunities, luck sometimes in certain cases, and you never know the other side of the story. And even then, with time, you embellish it or you forget,
Right.
or etc. So
Right.
it's inspirational, but I don't think it has to be the to-do of anyone.
Right, I agree. And sort of to wrap it up, and since you're talking about story, I have a question for you about your story. And I read an interview that they did of you in a website, and there's this quote I wanted to read that you said, I think that fundamentally we need to give back and make sense of the world. It doesn't necessarily mean doing humanitarian work. It can also mean creating something like a new company. I still want to be successful and create something big. And I think this was maybe while you were doing Sisters or before, but what is it that you see in your future, Alisée? Like, what is it that what do you see your big creation becoming, or how far do you see into the future? I guess that's the question.
You would have asked me 3 years ago, I would have a plan on everything, but now that living the entrepreneurial experience, I don't see further than 3 months. So
what about the mission?
no, but I wanna I don't know if I know how to build. I don't know if I'm that entrepreneur that from scratch can, from a white sheet of paper, can start doing something, but I want to be part of something.
So I'll say I wanted to thank you for the time and for this talk, and I hope that, well, if you come back to Chile, you'll stop by to visit the Exosphere HQ again.
Of course.
Now that we're on the beach and everything is a lot more nicer, so you definitely have to stop by.
Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you, Alisée. Take care.
Bye.